Welcome, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Welcome to MSPS Dhamma Sharing Online. This event is jointly organized by Mahasatipatthana Buddhist Society Klang and Mudita Buddhist Society Klang. It's supported by Theravada Buddhist Council of Malaysia. Today is Tuesday, 4th August 2020, and the time now is 8:32. We like to welcome new guests. There's a few new faces from Indonesia and Singapore. Okay, a few housekeeping rules before we start. Okay, please display your name for easy identification. Make sure your audio is muted at all times. If you wish to ask a question, you may type your question at the chat box. To ask verbally, you may raise hand, unmute, and talk. Please turn off your microphone after finish asking. One person to speak at one time. During guided meditation, please on your video so Bante can see your progress. Okay, I'll share the screen. Can you see the screen now?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Okay. MSBS is fortunate to have with us Bante Adhibalo, popularly known as Phra Goh. Bante was born on 14 July 1985. Bante had his bhikkhu ordination into the Theravada tradition of Thai Dhamma sect at Santi Forest Monastery in Johor, Malaysia in 2008. Bante spent the first 5 rain retreats at various forest monasteries in Malaysia and Thailand. He is currently Vice President of Palelai Buddhist Society, Temple, Singapore. The title of today's talk is a continuation of the last 2 weeks, Sublime States. Bante will be leading the homage to the Buddha and taking of the 5 precepts. Okay, let us compose our mind, put our palms together and welcome Bante. Over to you, Bante.
Okay, thank you, Terence, for the introduction. All right, so now we are starting chant. So now, okay, so for the Buddhist, we chant the homage, refuge, and the 5 precepts. Right? Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kamesu michachara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musawada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Surameraya majapamadatana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Okay, so that concludes the opening chant. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so today we are back with the Four Immeasurable series, right? Four Sublime States. So today we are going to talk on the application of how to practice this metta, right? These Four Sublime States. Right. The previous session we talked about the benefits and how to practice not going to the extremes. Right. So now we are going to start off with this very popular sutta used in all the Theravada schools of Buddhism, right? Called the Karaniya Metta Sutta. So we chant this thing, right? But before we go on to the discourse, maybe I'd like to share. There's like a prelude story, to this sutta. There's a context behind this sutta. It is said that there's a few monks, right? They are like sort of meditating in a forest, right? And what happened to the share screen again? And anyway, these monks, they face some problems, when they entered deep in the jungle, right? And they started to meditate. Then there are some tree spirits, right? Some tree spirits, they decided to scare the monks, right? They are very territorial kind of tree spirits, right? So whenever some holy people or some ascetics come by, some of them might feel obliged to sort of pay respect or give way and let them meditate in peace, right? However, these tree spirits are very territorial, so they decided to scare these monks. So when these monks are meditating, then they see many, many frightful images, right? Many frightful images that scare them. So they cannot meditate in peace, right? So what they do is they return back to the Buddha, right? Go and see the Buddha. So they travel all the way back and ask the Buddha for advice, how to meditate in peace, right? So with that in mind, then the Buddha taught this discourse, this Karaniya Metta Sutta, right? So that these monks can meditate in peace. So eventually the monks went back to the same place and they meditated, and the tree spirits find it very comforting, the energy, the vibe is so peaceful, so warm, right, and welcoming. So they decided, okay, just leave the monks alone, see? So the monks can meditate and progress, and that's the end of the story. So a lot of Buddhist culture, some people might take this scripture as exorcism chant, exorcism chant, because it's got to do with spirits. So a lot of people chant this sutta to try to scare ghosts away, chase away ghosts, or try to exorcise spirits. But actually, if a person were to understand the scripture, it is not meant to chase away ghosts or to exorcise spirits, right? So now we're going to delve into the details. Can you go back to the share screen? Okay, all right. So now we are back to the scripture. This is the translated version. I won't be chanting it, but I will just read through and probably explain. Okay, so the one in black is from the scripture. The one in blue is basically my comment, right? So here it goes. Okay, he who is skilled in working out his own well-being and who wishes to attain the state of calm, nibbana, right? So should act thus. So this is right view. So in Buddhism, we talk about the Four Noble Truths, right? So if a person were to end suffering, right? Try to strive to end or overcome suffering, then they will enter this state of calm. right? So this is the ultimate goal of all Buddhists. He should be dexterous, upright, exceedingly upright, obedient, gentle, and humble. So all these are virtues. All these are virtues. So I don't have to teach you all this. I believe your parents or your school, right? There's a civics, moral education. They will teach you all this. Okay, then the next one is right livelihood, right? Contented, easily supportable, with but few responsibilities of simple livelihood, control in senses, prudent, courteous, and not hanker after association with families. Okay, so this one, the target audience for this particular scripture, right? The context is the Buddha is speaking to the monks, right? The Buddha is speaking to monastics. So you have to take it in context, right? So if a person, you have to see for yourself. If you want to improve in your meditation, then you need to reduce your workload. Reduce your workload. If you are too busy, doing lots and lots of stuff, lots of duties, lots of responsibilities, then it might be a hindrance to, let's say, for a beginner. Maybe some people, they are maybe a veteran, also they can multitask. They can apply mindfulness in their daily life, in their chores, right? So maybe this might be a kind of training for advanced practitioners, but for most people, right, for starters, then it's good to reduce their workload, right? So there's a reason why people choose the monastic path, right? Because they want to emphasize too much on working to earn a living, right, for their livelihood. However, nowadays in the modern context, especially in a city, sometimes monks even need to work and try to upkeep the monastery, right? So this is a very paradoxical kind of issue now. Okay, so the next one is control in senses. So this is another very, very deep topic, right? I explained this in the retreat, the Zoom retreat on the Vipassana, right? How not to cling to the senses, right? They are all the six senses, the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, right? So we see, smell, taste, hear, think, touch. So every sense contact, every stimuli, right, will sort of be subjected to clinging, right? Either we have pleasant kind of feelings or unpleasant feelings. So the whole idea is to be detached when we have contact with any sense stimuli. So this is actually very high level practice, right? But for, let's say, beginners, that's why you have this thing called the precepts, right? So if a person wants to get more involved in meditation, some people take 8 precepts. For a layperson, take 8 precepts. So they restrain, abstain from maybe sexual intercourse and abstain from entertainment, music, dancing, and so on and so forth. So they sort of avoid these things completely, right? So with these things avoided, then your mind can be more calm. Oh, what happened to the slides? Previous slide and next. Okay. All right, inside previous. Yeah. Previous, back to the same. Okay, all right. Yeah, so control in senses. So this is actually a very deep practice, right? So for monastics, also the same thing. We have many, many precepts. For the monks, you have 227. Maybe the Mahayana have more precepts. The nuns have 300 over precepts. So all these are sort of keeping our movements in check, restricting our activities so that we can focus this energy on meditation, right? But let's say for normal lay person like yourself, you have work to do, you have your social life, right? So you need to moderate and balance. Okay, so the next verse, prudent, courteous, I think it's common sense, virtue, not hanker and after association with family. So these are for monks actually. So we are not supposed to demand too much things from the layperson, because for monastics we live, right? Our livelihood is dependent on donation, on alms, right? We survive on alms. We don't work or make a living on our own, so our survival depends on lay people to feed us, right? So we don't sort of hanker, we don't chase and demand things from them. So this is basically to train our contentment, train ourselves to be easily supportable. Okay, then the next one. So let's say for the audience, right? Let's say you are not working, you're after handouts from your family members, can be your parents or maybe from your children. So if your maintenance is very low, you don't demand too many things, I think they will like you. Yeah? Let them not perform the slightest wrong, for which wise man may rebuke him. Okay, so basically this is right speech and right action, right? Basically, try not to tell lies. Earlier on we take the precepts, we chanted the precepts. So this is actually a holistic kind of training. It's not a religious kind of vow to tie a person, and not a kind of a ritual or custom, but it's very beneficial, kind of holistic training for the mind in general. Right? So this is right speech and right action. So next one. All right, so now this is the execution part, right? So the execution is to wish, may all beings be happy and safe. May they have happy minds. Right, so the instruction from the sutta, and also you can cross-reference with the suttas, right? All of them start with may all beings. So it's a general wish, for all beings to be well and happy. So it is not like the post-canonical version. The instructions normally start with you first wish yourself, then followed by your loved ones, your friends, family members, neutral party, and then followed by your enemies. Right? So this one starts off with all beings. So the original method is to wish all beings well and happy. Right? So we discussed that in the previous session. Right? If we start off with the various groups of people, then we might develop, instead of loving kindness, we might develop something else, maybe passionate grief, or some, personal affection, right? Personal affection and some other stuff instead of the middle way kind of loving kindness. Because every person has their, we call it different role. When we interact with different people, we have different roles. If we think of our parents, right, then our role is actually a child. Right? If we think of our friends, then our role is a friend. Right? If we think of a colleague at work, then our role becomes a colleague. Right? So we cannot have the same emotion towards our parents and towards our friends. Right? We need to behave differently. Right? We behave to our friends. We cannot behave the same way to our parents. So it becomes very rude. So it becomes, how do you call it? There are different, we call it social kind of norms, and that kind of different emotion kind of generated. They have their reasons, so that we can sort of relate to them in a different specific manner. All right, so in the next paragraph, so this describes what's the definition of all beings. So what is these beings? Is it restricted to just humans, to animals, or what? So what are these living beings? So it's mentioned, right? Feeble or strong, right? Seekers and the attained. So what it means, those who haven't realized the truth and those who have realized the truth, right? Long, stout, medium size, all kinds of shapes and sizes, right? So that means it's interspecies, right? All kinds of species, near or far, right? It's not just about your country or your neighborhood, so it's all about everyone, right? Those who are born as well, those who are yet to be born, seen and unseen. So I also described these unseen beings we talked about in the previous session, or the metaphysical beings as well. You may or may not acknowledge them, doesn't matter. If you do not believe them, it's all right. No, you can just wish all beings in general. Okay, next. All right, so the next one is let him not deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere. Right? In anger or ill will, let him not wish another ill. Right? So basically, if a person has unwholesome thoughts, right, negative, unwholesome thoughts, right, we try to not let them arise. If they arise, then we should try to overcome and diminish them. Right? So just as a mother would protect her only child with her life, even so let one cultivate a boundless love towards all beings. Right? So basically, this means there are different interpretations. You know, some people interpret as loving kindness means motherly love. So a person is supposed to generate motherly love towards all beings. Right? But then again, the target audience for this discourse are monks, right? So monks are male, right? So they won't know what motherly love is like, right? So if a person were to use some English comprehension and try to understand this statement, what it means, if a person were to maintain the thought, right, of wishing all beings well and happy, and not let go of this thought, right? It's as though you're protecting the thought. So the thought is actually a child. So if you were to protect the thought, it's as good as protecting your only child. So this is what I take of this statement. Right, next. All right, so we have this practice, right, 24-hour metta. So this movement started by Bante Mahinda from Malaysia, right? So some of you may know him. So basically, this PowerPoint slide or these talks sort of initiated by this Metta Circle movement, right? Because they have this movement, so I have to prepare classes and start those lessons in Singapore. Okay, so let him radiate boundless love towards the entire world, above, below, and across, unhindered, without ill will, without enmity. So if a person were to go through the practical sessions, we have this directional kind of meditation, right, to train the spatial kind of awareness, know how to be mindful in the various directions, and eventually we encompass the whole the world, right, whole universe with loving kindness, and this kind of practice can result in various kinds of formless concentration, depending on how one practices it, right? So it applies to all the different sublime states as well. So the post advocates for the post-canonical kind of ideology will tend to believe, loving kindness can only reach this third level of concentration, the form concentration, which is again contrary to the suttas, right? It reaches the formless concentration. So you can find this in the Mettang Sutta. So there's an M behind the metta. So you can search it and Google it for yourself. Okay, standing, walking, sitting, or reclining, as long as he is awake, let him develop this mindfulness. Right? This, they say, is noble living. Right? So if a person were to develop this mindfulness, so a lot of times we covered mindfulness before. So mindfulness of what? Mindfulness of the stock market, mindful of the weather, right? Mindful can be many things. So it's kind of description. So if a person were to practice the spiritual kind of mindfulness, So actually being mindful of something wholesome, not letting go of your meditation object. So actually mindful of loving kindness, right? So this is a practice. So any object of meditation that the Buddha taught, can be impurities on the body. The Buddha will encourage the person to be mindful of that whole day as well. Mindful of the Buddha's qualities, the Dhamma, Sangha, virtues, whatever it is. It's supposed to be a whole day affair. So a lot of times people say, I have no time to meditate, I'm so busy, and all kinds of reasons or excuses. So after this session, right, after reading this particular verse, then you have no excuse to say, I have no time to meditate. Right? Meditate is supposed to be an every moment affair, right? Every moment affair. Right? So it's not just about sitting there for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or maybe it depends on how long you sit, half an hour, 1 hour. And meditation is not just that, right? Meditation is a whole day affair. Right? So it can be done throughout the whole day. So for example, if a person can be angry the whole day, they can be angry sitting, angry talking, angry eating, right? So loving kindness is just the opposite. Loving kindness is just the opposite, right? So a person can, have a kind of positive vibe, kind of friendly thought, when they're eating, sleeping. Sleeping can minus off, can in all the activities, talking, walking, right? So this is what it means by right mindfulness. Okay, and the next slide. So eventually, right, if a person were to practice it correctly, right, not falling into wrong views, right, being virtuous. Okay, so not falling into wrong views. So this is basically, we'll cover this in the meditation, the practical session. We always talk about being mindful of impermanence. So your person will be mindful of impermanence and not cling to the mind, right? And there are things to watch out for, the stress level, the clinging, how to reduce the stress, right? So if a person would be mindful of this, the Four Noble Truths, basically, right? Being virtuous, with insight, right? So if a person is aware of this, right? Has some insight in the meditation, last in the senses discarded. So eventually the person is able to remain peaceful throughout, even in the loving kindness, right? Verily, never again, right? Will he return to conceive in the womb. So my take is, if a person can be liberated from this practice of loving kindness, just like all the 84,000 kind of Dhamma doors, right? So again, some people might discount and say, oh, a person won't conceive in the womb, so maybe a non-returner. So this is the table, the Buddhistic kind of explanation on the different stages of sainthood, stages of realizations or kind of understanding of the Dhamma, right? So these are the various kind of stages on the left, and on the right are these various kinds of rebirth. So in the center are all the sort of negative qualities one should abandon or overcome, right? So I'll just leave the talk as it is. So now it's 9 o'clock, and I'll open the floor to a Q&A, so anybody can ask questions, right? Maybe you can leave more time for practical session later. Right, anyone from the room or from the chat or from the Facebook comments? No one? Everyone clear after hearing from the talk? Everyone understands?
You can unmute and ask. There's nothing from Facebook yet.
Wow, okay.
Bante.
Yes.
Yeah, the question is not related to today's topic.
All right.
I just want Bante to comment.
Okay.
I've been trying to use your method for the last week.
Okay.
I have been using Anapanasati all the way.
Mm.
But now I'm switching to your method. I find that your method tends to be, I tend to be like, because a lot of the things are about verbal, you know. Because you do Anapanasati, we tend to be focused on a specific point.
Yeah.
You try to shut down the thinking part of things.
Yeah, correct.
I use your method, you know, like Asoba, we have to keep on talking, and then, and then when it comes to the breath, also I also keep talking. You know, so I feel like I'm more the mind is more talking and being quiet, but I do feel that the mind is calm. But the whole approach looks so different, you know. But I tend to be active yet aware, but not like the method I used to have, you know, where we have to be quiet and we just pay attention to the breath. So can just Bante comment? Because I do, you know, sitting for 45 minutes, I do have the same kind of result, but it's a little bit more noisy, like, you know.
Oh, okay.
The mind is a bit talking. That it seems like it's like almost coming to a chanting level, you know. The mind
Okay.
about the head hair, body hair, head hair, body hair.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for the question. Right. So probably for any newcomer, these instructions that we go through in the guided practical session might seem like a verbal kind of thing, but actually requires one to physically, apply them. Just like, for example, even for the breath meditation, right? So there's some thinking involved, right thought about non-greed and non-hatred, right? So there are, I will give some verbal instructions, but then when you practice yourself, you don't have to really sub-vocalize. If you want to sub-vocalize, that's fine. But if you don't wish to sub-vocalize, you are very familiar with the method, you can just apply straight away, that's fine. I think that's better. So similarly for the loving kindness, if a person doesn't wish to sub-vocalize, they just wish to pay attention in front or left or right, north, south, east, west, in different directions, that is great. But if a person requires to listen maybe to the audio, or they need to sub-vocalize in their mind, that's also fine. Does that answer your question?
So Bante, so during that sitting itself, we mentally run those words, isn't it? Like
you may wish to run those words. You don't have to run those words as well if you are very familiar with the steps already, right? Especially if you're beginner, you might if let's say you're new to this method, then you might need to listen to the audio or use a bit of sub-vocalization to kind of remind yourself of the steps. But let's say you're practicing day in, day out for a long time, you don't need the sub-vocalization. It becomes very natural.
But the words are appearing in your mind, even though you don't say it. You have to have, your mind is saying that hate hat.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, the mind is saying the word hate hat, right? You won't be paying attention to the hate hat.
Okay.
I'm saying hate hat well and happy, for example, Okay. So there will be this word that is in your mind, hate hat well and happy. Hate hat well and happy. So maybe I do that about 20 times before I say, hate hat is subject to old age, sickness, and death. There'll be this word that is in the mind. But what I have is I have this word there constantly running for maybe 20, 30 times before I switch on to the next word. That there is no self in this hat. There's no self in this hat.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure I'm doing the right thing, I'm not sure, but it tends to calm down and you can still remain focused.
All right. Okay. So what you need to look out for is the change in the state of mind, right? The change of emotion from beginning scattered mind to a mind of non-hatred, for the first step when you wish the hair well and happy, right? So this is what you need to look out for, right? So it's like typing a command in the computer, right? So it's not about typing the command, but it's about eventually executing the command. The command is really executed, right? So it's important as the sub-vocalization aspect. So that will probably maybe take up 1 second, right? So eventually you must really see the emotional change, right? So this is the important execution part. But however, if let's say because our mind is so fickle and sometimes unwholesome thoughts might come in, right? Unwholesome thoughts might come in. So you need to remind yourself again, wish the hair well and happy. So it might take a person many times to type in the command to generate these wholesome thoughts, but eventually the benchmark is to see the emotional change from maybe negative or neutral to something wholesome. So this is what you should look out for.
Thank you, Bante.
Okay, all right.
Okay, that's Sister Sally.
Okay.
Can you unmute and ask Bante?
Yeah, Bante, I'm Sally here.
Okay.
I would like to check with you, Bante, regarding this living metta or living kindness. Okay, so I practice this every day, almost half an hour. So I would like to double check with you because last time when I practice it, so for instance, first I will send the metta to myself. I wish myself become happy and become more kindness. Then I will imagine for instance, okay, one person I respect, I imagine, and then I send this loving kind to her, okay. And after that, okay, because I will send to all the beings. I don't imagine whether it's for her or for different human or something like that. So is it a correct way, or I must imagine? Okay, for instance, if I want to send this loving kindness to the whole people, so I have to think, okay, and then imagine, and then hope them happy. So which one is correct?
Yeah, so like mentioned, like in the talk earlier, the initial thought is to wish all beings well and happy. So if we just think of a specific group of person, then that might generate a specific kind of emotion that is only for that person. But it doesn't apply to different groups of people, right? So, so for my metta meditation, I will encourage people not to imagine too much, not to visualize too much, because the mind will naturally tend to play movies, play the dramas and movies relating to that person or that particular group of people. So I will just generally wish all beings well and happy. So, however, in our chanting, the formula, like any puja, morning or evening puja, so this Karaniya Metta Sutta will probably appear somewhere in the middle or somewhere before the end. So towards the end, we have this thing called the dedication chant, where we wish specific groups of people well. Now, we dedicate marriage to different specific groups of people. Can be the devas, can be your loved ones, and so on and so forth. So it is only towards the end when the mind is already strengthened. If a person has already practiced this Karaniya Metta Sutta properly, when the mind has certain concentration or certain insight, then you try different groups of people, then you might have some insight. You have to understand how these different emotions are born. And think of different people. How come you have certain if a person talk about dependent origination, this bhava, this being, becoming, how you become this particular role, how you come become a child, how come you become somebody who needs to be protected by certain devas, so something like that. So you have specific roles when you think of different people, or when you come in contact with different people. So how does this being, how does this becoming come about? Right. So this one is towards the later stage, but for the beginning part, the portion, the foundation is still important on how to generate loving kindness to all beings first. Don't have to think of various groups. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Okay. Understand. Thank you very much, Bante.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions?
Bante, I would like to ask something personal.
Okay.
Sometimes we get agitated and angry. How do we watch this feeling and keep it under control?
Okay. Okay. So for the effort part, it's good to, if possible, avoid this emotion. That means don't pay attention to this emotion, especially if our kung fu, our skill is not good enough. Right? Even for sleep, the same thing. The Buddha advised Venerable Maha Moggallana to not pay attention to the sleepy feeling. Right? So sloth and torpor and restlessness is like probably the last few factors kind to abandon. Right? So don't even talk about we call the 5 hindrances. So similarly for anger, right? We try not to pay attention too much to his anger first, because if our equanimity is not there, our mind will tend to cling on to that strong emotion. Definitely will cling on. Right? Same with any unwholesome emotion. Can be greed, can be sloth and torpor, whatever, jealousy, whatever it is. So any emotion is strong, the mind will naturally cling on to it. So for a trainee, it's good to first avoid this emotion, right? Then we move on to something positive. We just mind stick back to this sort of loving kindness, right? Something positive until the mind, again, probably maybe after the session, or if you go for longer retreats, then when the mind has equanimity, then there's a short period of time where you can, where the mind has certain level of sort of immunity, right? Then you can tackle the emotion, you can see the emotion come and go, then you can be more familiar with that. Right? But if let's say you're busy with work and your daily life, I would strongly suggest to avoid or switch to some wholesome emotion first, right? Or wholesome meditation object. Okay,
Okay, thank you. We'll
okay.
try. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? No questions? If there's no questions, then we can have a short break, maybe 5-minute break, and do stretching or go to the restroom. Then we'll come back for the guided meditation session. All right, so see you later. All right, is everyone back? Okay, so for those who are present, then we can find comfortable sitting posture. You can start here. Lots of unseen beings, so we can also include them in the meditation. Okay, so once we are ready and comfortable, we can close our eyes and relax. All right, so we are going to go through the routine. So we're first going to reach, right, your body well and happy. So for the newcomers, what we are doing is train, right, different cognitive processes of the mind. So the first phase of meditation is a bit of visualization kind of meditation, learning to let go of the body. So we are going to first think of your hair, right? So it's a bit like looking in a mirror of yourself, and we're going to wish all the hairs well and happy. So from head to toe, we are going to wish all the hairs well and happy. So this is thoughts of non-hatred, and we're going to apply thoughts of non-greed. So all these hairs, they go through this birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. So the hairs will grow long, and they get dirty, oily, and sweaty. And they turn white when it's old, and it cracks when it's dry. And eventually they all fall off. Every day we have lots and lots of hair falling off. So in meditation, if you do it correctly, it shouldn't be stressful. If there's a reduction of greed and hatred, then there should be some kind of joy, right? Dhamma joy. So this is the kind of telltale sign that you are going on the right track. So if any meditation you do, the more stressful, right? Then something is wrong. They need to troubleshoot. And then we can reflect, right, by asking ourselves, are these hairs truly self? Can you tell the hairs not to go through this birth and death? Next, we can visualize the nails, right? All the nails well and happy. We're going to wish all the fingernails well and happy. And we are going to wish all the toenails well and happy. And all the nails are subject to birth and death. And they grow long, they collect dirt, get dirty, they discolor, they go through wear and tear, scratches, cracks, and they even chip off. Every time you scratch on something hard, right, so the nails, the dead cells, they also fall off. And we are going to reflect by asking ourselves, are these nails truly self? Can we tell the nails not to go through this birth and death? And the next part of the body we are going to visualize is the teeth. All the teeth in the mouth. We're going to wish all the teeth well and happy. Right, we're going to wish all the upper rows of teeth well and happy. And all the lower rows of teeth well and happy. And all these teeth are subject to birth and death. So our teeth will grow and change in shape and size. They get dirty, they discolor, right? All the plaque build up, turn yellowish, turn brown, and they turn black and decay. And have these tooth cavities, they grow holes, they get shaky, and eventually they fall off. And we can ask ourselves, are these teeth truly self? If it is truly self, can you tell the teeth not to go through this birth and death? And the next part of the body we are going to visualize is the skin. Right, so we are going to wish all the skin well and happy, right, from head to toe. And may all the skin be well and happy. And all the skin are subject to birth and death. And the skin will get dirty, oily, sweaty. A wrinkle when it's old. And it has all kinds of skin problems. When it's dried cracks. Sometimes there's skin irritation, turns red, has allergies, and grows his pimples, boils, pus, and so on. And eventually, all the skin will fall off. Right? Every day when you rub the skin, the dead skin, they fall off. Okay, and we're going to move on to the next phase of meditation, is to unify the mind a bit. Right, so we're going to feel the breath, right? Feel the breathing. So basically, it's one small area below the nostril, above the upper lip. Right, we're finding a small point. The smaller, the better. There's no need to visualize for this exercise. So we're going to feel one small area. No need to feel your windpipe, your diaphragm, and the rest of your lungs. Right? Just keep it to below the nostril, above the upper lip, contact point of the air when you breathe in and breathe out. So gentle attention. No need to control your breathing. Let your in and out breath be your natural reflex action. And we are using the same principles of non-greed and non-hatred. So whenever there's inhalation, we wish the breath well. Right? Whenever there's an exhalation, we wish the breath happy. Right? So breathe in well, breathe out happy. So this is the most important step. Right? Make friends with the breath using loving kindness. Right? Never ever try to struggle or fight with the breath. It's a sure lose situation. Focus on the cause of reducing the desire of hatred, right? Then the mind will naturally calm down by itself as a byproduct. So we inhale, wishing the breath well. Exhale, wish the breath happy. This learning to be at peace with the breath. Right? If we can't even be at peace with one small area, right? We can forget about other things in life. Everything we do is got to be very stressful. Eh? Okay, then we are going to introduce the other thought, which is non-greed, right? So it's the impermanence of the breath. So when you breathe in and out, there's actually very micro processes of birth and death taking place, right? But the breath is invisible, so we are using the sense of touch. There are four, right, classifications of sensations. We call these the four elements. right? Earth, fire, wind, and water elements. Nothing magical about them. It's a description of their different sensations. So the earth element represents any hard and soft sensations when you breathe in and out. So if you feel there's any change in density of the air, when you breathe in and out, then there is the birth and death of the earth element. And the fire element represents hot and cold kind of sensations, right? So when you breathe in and out, if there's any change in temperature, then there's a birth and death of the fire element. Wind is the movement, right? Fast and slow movement, long and short. So when you breathe in and out, if there's any change in the breathing rate, then there's a birth and death of the wind element. And the water element is the moist or dry sensations. So when you breathe in and out, if there's any changes in the humidity, then there's birth and death of the water element. Right, so the whole idea is not to purposely generate such sensations, but whichever sensations that appear, right, most obviously at that particular moment, then you observe the birth and death, or the rising and falling, or the impermanence, whatever you call it, of the breath. So this is the next important step, right? We are going to maintain this observation of impermanence throughout the entire breath meditation. The whole idea of observing this impermanence is to practice this detachment. Right? Earlier on, when you have loving kindness, the mind can calm down. Right? So this impermanence will further create detachment, and hopefully you can observe the mind settling down if you keep on observing this impermanence. And continue to observe impermanence until the mind settle to this thing called stability point. That means the point where the mind cannot even settle any further. That means the mind has become stable, peaceful, calm, and stable. Right, so take a time to observe the impermanence of the breath. So in meditation, there's application of right effort and right thought. Right, so you cannot have such thing as no thinking. Right, if a person never apply this right thought, then there's a high probability they might end up in a dreamland. So when there's a detachment of the mind, then there will be lack of stress, or rather lack of tension, right? Lack of dukkha, lack of this suffering. So whenever there's a reaction reaction to any kind of sense stimuli, right? Any kind of clinging to any sense stimuli, then there will be a kind of agitation, and the mind will rise up from being settled, and there will be tension again. Right? So actually, when a person observes the mind settling, you're actually observing the Four Noble Truths. Right? The cause of this suffering is desire to react with any of the sense stimuli, the aggregates. And it requires the Eightfold Path, right? Lots of right thought, lots of right effort to sort of overcome this stress. So effort is not in a forceful manner, but in a consistent and continuous, repetitive manner. Okay, so once we are sort of, right, we got a taste of this little bit of peace, right? Then we are going to sort of extend this peace in our kind of other worldly functions, right? So we are going to multitask here. In fact, we are going to wish all beings in front well and happy. So we're actually practicing extending loving kindness with a non-clinging mind. So how to pay attention in front without agitation. How to maintain, right, this sort of settled mind. It still requires mindfulness of impermanence. Maybe some people are more sensitive in the mind, they can feel the elements manifesting in their attention. And we are going to return back to ourselves. And next we are going to wish all beings behind well and happy. And we return to ourselves. Next, we are going to wish all beings on the left be well and happy. And we return to ourselves. And we're going to wish all beings on the right be well and happy. And we return to ourselves. And next we are going to wish all beings above well and happy. And we return to ourselves. And we are going to wish all beings below well and happy. And we return to ourselves. This time we fill this entire body with loving kindness. May this entire body be well and happy. And we are slowly going to eventually extend it, right, from near to far. So we are going to first wish all beings in your entire house, right, in your home, right, in all directions, above, below, and all across. All beings in the house, be well and happy. And we are going to extend the loving kindness to your neighborhood. May all beings in the neighborhood be well and happy. And we are extending this loving kindness to the entire country. And may all beings in the country be well and happy. And we extend this loving kindness to the surrounding countries in your continent. May all beings in this continent be well and happy. And then we can extend the loving kindness to the entire world. May all beings on this planet be well and happy. It is good to wish for world peace, but make sure your mind is also peaceful. And eventually we extend this loving kindness to the entire universe. May all beings be well and happy. So take your time to be at peace with the universe. And no need to exert to extend the mind out, yeah? It's just a concept. Whole idea is the mind have to be at peace, so this is the priority. So be one with the universe, right? One with this loving kindness. So if you can feel the four elements, right? That encompass the entire universe, and you can be mindful of the impermanence, right? The birth and death of the various intensity or sensations that encompass this universe. So the whole idea is to be familiarized with this peace, and maintain this boundless loving kindness. In the sutta that we mentioned earlier, be it standing, sitting, walking, or lying down, if we can maintain this boundless loving kindness, then this is the highest conduct, the highest practice. So with that in mind, then you can gently open your eyes. Right? We sort of end the formal session by mentally we maintain this practice. Right? So you can wish your body well and happy, right? Move your legs, move your feet. So all back from space, huh? Okay, any other questions or comments in like a few minutes? Any problems faced by anyone? Oh, no problem, huh? Okay. Then we can dedicate merit. Right. Oh, I have a question. Jan raised the hand. Yes, you can unmute and ask your question.
Okay, Bante. So far, I think this time, right? This session, we use the Anapanasati and Metta Bhavana.
All right.
Could you share, if possible, Bante, about the compassion method, Bante? Is it all right?
I can feel compassion.
Compassion method, because so far I think not many teachers talk about how to do using compassion rather than
Okay.
maybe I don't know, Bante, we can share a little bit about the method.
Okay, all right. I think you have muted the last few words.
Yeah.
So you want me to share about compassion?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, so like in the previous session, we talked about the four sublime states are interrelated. Yeah, so compassion is the wish for all beings to be free from suffering. So this is compassion. So so for Theravada Buddhism, we normally emphasize more on metta first. It's a bit like a forerunner of the four sublime states. But if you want to specialize in compassion, by all means. So if let's say when we think of the birth and death of your body, right? Then then you may feel compassion or some sense of sadness or suffering. And then if you want, you can extend to all beings. When we radiate to all beings in all directions, then you can even add on the contemplation, all beings, they go through this birth, aging, sickness and death, right? So over time then this kind of compassion will develop. You wish them to be free from suffering. So this is additional thing you can do, right? So of course there are many variety of practices like this one, probably the Mahayana or the Tibetan Buddhists, they specialize in these kind of practices. I ever came across a book called this How to Generate Bodhicitta, right? So they have to imagine all beings were their mothers in their past life. So imagine I have to view you as my mother, or view everyone as my mother, something like that. So there are various steps. So this is another kind of method, right? So there are many kinds of practices, but again, so for the one we are using is a bit more simple and hopefully can apply throughout the entire day. All right.
Okay. Is it normal that in the compassion method, it is for me, I find it's hard to generate joy, to generate sukha, happiness, because it seems like more towards like sadness, concern, than because in Metta Bhavana we feel very happy, right?
Yeah.
Joy, happiness, like wow, very happy.
Yeah.
Compassion part, I find it is kind of difficult to generate that joy.
If there is a drop in desire, right? If there's a drop in desire when you practice any kind of meditation object, including compassion, then Dhamma joy should arise, right? Then after some time, then the mind will calm down and you feel this compassion again.
So there is joy, there is happiness in the compassion method.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, but depending on how you do it, normally it will last for a short while. This is just part of the 7 stages of this enlightenment, right? It's just a short transition. So if let's say you bypass that stage, right, then you feel joy for a while, then you move on to the next few stages. Once you cling again, then the mind will fall back to the back to square one. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Bante. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? Right. No questions. All happy, well and happy. Right.
Go on. Lip.
Oh, Hui Wen. Oh, okay. I saw a hand raised. Okay. Yes, you may ask your question.
Bante, I have 2 questions with regards to meditation. So,
Okay.
the first one is because we're supposed to focus the breath at one point, but then sometimes when I end up following the breath to like maybe the end of, I don't know, the back of my head, and then I find it very like I'm just chasing the breath. And then the second problem that I face is because during the gap between the inhalation and the exhalation, there's a gap. Then I don't know what to do because there's nothing to feel. Then I don't know what to focus on. And then sometimes when I practice by myself, and then I will drift off because I don't know what to focus.
Okay, all right.
My 2. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's good to observe the impermanence, the birth and death of the various elements. So you don't have to overgeneralize the impermanence part, right? So let's say when a person breathes in, doesn't have to be one birth and breathe out one death. No, sometimes when breathe in can be multiple birth and deaths, depending on how sharp you can observe the changes, the intensity of the various sensations. So if let's say there's a gap, then there's probably depth of a certain sensation, right? And then if there's a new kind of movement again, then there's another birth of a new kind of sensation, right? So basically it's just increasing the rate per minute of this reflection, that's all.
And how can I like I somehow my mind will still drift away during the gap. Not sure if you have any like advice.
Yeah, so you can try. So if the mind is still wandering off, right? So basically it's very normal, right? This restlessness. In fact, it's only enlightened being can overcome restlessness. So if your mind is not running around and you're sort of drifting off together in that restless thought, it's very normal. It's just habit requiring training and conditioning. So you just need to bring the mind back. All right?
Yeah, thank you, Bante.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, any other questions? No other hands?
All right.
Okay, then I think that we can close shop, yeah?
For tonight.
Yeah, so there's a chant or something?
Yeah. Dedicate the merits, yeah?
Okay, dedication chant.
I open the slides.
Okay.
Can you all see the slides already?
Yeah, I saw the may you be well and happy.
Okay.
Okay, so now we dedicate merits to the various shareholders, these devas and so on, yeah? Akasata Jabhumata Devanaga Mahidika Punyang tang anumoditva chirang rakantu loka sasanang etavata jamhi sapada punya sapada sabbe deva sabbe bhuta sabbe sattva anumodantu sabba sappadisidhiya. Transference of merits to the departed. Idam me nyatinang hotu, sukhita hotu nyatayo. Idam me nyatinang hotu, sukhita hotu nyatayo. Idam me nyatinang hotu, sukhita hotu nyatayo. An aspiration, imina punya kamena, mame bala samagamo. Satang samagamo hotu yavanibana patiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Right.
Okay, thank you, Bante.
Thank you.
So as usual, we'll meet again next Tuesday,
Okay.
same time. Yeah, the room will open at 8:15. Okay, everyone. Good night.
All right.
Thank you for joining. Yeah, good sleep. Bye bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Samecha Sako Ujucha Suhujucha Suvachocha Samudu Anatimani Santusakocha Sumbarocha Apakichocha Salahukavuti Sanpindriyocha Nipakocha Apagabo Kulesu Ananugito Nachakutang Samachare Kinchi Yena Vinyu Pare Upavadeyum Sukhino Vakemino Hontu Sabe Sata Bhavantu Sukhitata Yeke Chipana Bhutati Tasavata Bharava Anavasesa Digavaye Mahantava Majimarasaka Anukatula Ditavaye Cha Adita Ye Cha Dure Vasanti Avedure Bhutava Sambhave Siva Sabbe Sata Bhavantu Sukhitata Naro Param Nikubeta Nati Manyeta Kata Shinam Kinchi Bayarosana Patiga Sanya Nanya Manya Sadukamicheya Bhatrayata Niyam Bhutam Ayusa Eka Bhutam Anurakhe Evam Visabha Bhutesu Manasambhavaye Aparimanam Metancha Sabbalokasmim Manasambhavaye Aparimanam Udam Adocha Tiriyancha Asambadam Averam Asapatam Titancharam Nisinova Sayanova Yavatasa Vigatam มิโตเอทังสัตถิมอดิเทยะบรมเมทังวิหารังอิดมาหุดิทินชานุปกัมมสีลวาดัสสเนนะสัมปันโนกาเมสุวิเนยเกตังนาหิจาตุกาเบเส